In the distant future, humanity faced its greatest challenge. The galaxy was at war, and the alien forces were too powerful. Captain Ryan Steele stood at the command deck of the human fleet, staring out into the endless black of space. His hands rested on the console, but his mind was a million miles away. The aliens, led by General Krosk, had crushed every resistance they met, and now Earth and its colonies were next. "Captain, the enemy fleet is on approach," reported Lieutenant Megan Cross, her voice steady despite the danger. Ryan nodded but said nothing. He had been through many battles before, but this one felt different. The odds were stacked against them. The human fleet was small compared to Krosk's massive armada, and their weapons were outdated. There was no real chance of winning, and yet he couldn't give up. He wouldn't. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made everyone pay attention. "We'll fight no matter what." Megan Cross, his most trusted officer, moved to her station. She had been with Ryan through countless battles. She believed in him, even when others had doubts. The ships of the human fleet were ready for battle. Their engines hummed softly as they aligned in formation. Each ship was a symbol of humanity's strength. They had no choice but to stand their ground. Ryan's mind raced as he thought about the people they were fighting for. The cities back on Earth, the families, the children. If they failed here, the aliens would take everything from them. But Ryan wasn't about to let that happen. Not on his watch. "General Krosk's fleet is now in range," Megan said, her eyes fixed on the approaching alien ships. Ryan's heart tightened. They were here. "All ships, prepare for battle," he called out. "Today we show them what humanity is capable of. We may be small, but we fight with everything we have." The alarms blared and the human fleet charged forward, guns firing into the void of space. The battle had begun, and though victory seemed impossible, the humans would not go down without a fight. The Yow. First wave of alien ships struck hard, their weapons tearing through the human fleet's defenses. Ryan Steele's heart raced as explosions lit up the blackness of space. His hands gripped the controls tightly, but his mind stayed focused. He couldn't let panic set in. Not now. "Captain, we're taking heavy damage," Megan Cross shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "Hull breaches on the Vanguard and Sentinel. Shields are down on the Eagle." Ryan looked to the tactical display, seeing the ships struggle to hold their ground. The alien fleet, led by General Krosk, was relentless. Their ships were faster, more advanced, and their firepower was overwhelming. It seemed like there was no way to survive. "We can't win this fight by running," Ryan said firmly. His voice was calm, but inside, he knew the truth. The odds were against them, but he couldn't back down. He had a duty to his crew, to Earth. "Tell the fleet to stay in formation. We hold this line no matter what." Megan nodded, her face set with determination. She was a fighter just like Ryan, and though the odds seemed impossible, she trusted him. "Understood, Captain. All ships hold the line." Ryan's mind flashed to his training, to all the lessons he had learned over the years. There was no room for fear, no room for doubt. They had to fight, even if victory seemed out of reach. Had seen his crew face battles before, but this time was different. This time it wasn't just about defending Earth. It was about showing the aliens that humanity would never surrender. As the human ships returned fire, Ryan's eyes narrowed. He saw an opening in the alien formation, a small weak spot. It wasn't much, but it was enough. "Megan," Ryan said, his voice low and steady. "I have an idea. It's risky, but it could work." "Tell me," Megan replied, already anticipating his next move. "We can't win by facing them head on," Ryan explained. "But if we use the Eagle as bait, we can draw them into a trap. The rest of the fleet can flank them from the side." Megan's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." The plan was dangerous. The Eagle would have to fly directly into the heart of the alien fleet, drawing their fire. It would be a gamble, one that could cost them everything. But Ryan had no other choice. The humans would fight or they would die trying. "All ships, execute the plan," Ryan ordered. As the Eagle pushed forward, the rest of the fleet spread out, taking positions. The aliens weren't prepared for the sudden change in strategy. For the first time, humanity had gained a small advantage. Ryan felt a spark of hope. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As the Eagle charged into the heart of the alien fleet, Ryan Steele watched nervously from the command deck. His plan had worked, but the Eagle was now in the most dangerous position. Alien fire rained down, damaging its shields, but it still held strong. The rest of the human fleet had spread out, catching the enemy off guard. "Captain, the trap is working. They're starting to turn their attention to the Eagle," Megan Cross reported, her eyes glued to the tactical screen. Ryan felt a surge of relief but knew it wasn't over yet. The alien forces, although distracted, were still formidable. They couldn't afford to wait too long before launching their next move. "Keep pushing them, but keep an eye on the Eagle," Ryan ordered. "We need to make sure they get out of there alive." Just then, an unexpected transmission crackled through their communication system. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. It was a Valrathi ship, an alien race that had remained neutral in the war. "This is Commander Ilara of the Valrathi fleet. We've been tracking your movements, human captain. We believe you may be the only ones who can stop Krosk's empire. We are sending our forces to assist." Ryan stared at the transmission, unsure if this was a trap. The Valrathi had never shown interest in the war before, and now they were offering their help. Something didn't add up. "Are you sure about this?" Ryan asked, his voice cautious. "Yes, Captain Steele," Ilara replied. "Our people have suffered at the hands of General Krosk, and we cannot stand by while he destroys your world as well. We offer you our warriors and our technology. Together, we might just have a chance." Ryan exchanged a quick glance with Megan. He could see the doubt in her eyes, but there was no time to waste. If the Valrathi could be trusted, this could be the breakthrough they needed. "All right, Commander Ilara," Ryan said. "We'll take your help, but we need to move quickly before Krosk regroups." The Valrathi ships, sleek and advanced, arrived just as the human fleet began to feel the pressure. Their weapons cut through the alien forces with precision. The tide of the battle began to shift, and Ryan could feel a new sense of hope rising within him. Megan smiled, her eyes wide with surprise. "Looks like we're not alone after all." "Looks like it," Ryan replied. The battle raged on as the human fleet, now bolstered by the Valrathi, pushed forward. Ryan Steele watched the tactical display as the enemy forces were thrown into disarray. The Valrathi ships, with their advanced technology and quick maneuvers, created gaps in the alien defenses. The human fleet, though outnumbered, followed up with precision strikes, taking advantage of the openings created by their new allies. "Captain, we've broken through their outer defenses," Megan Cross reported, her voice filled with excitement. "The Valrathi ships are doing wonders." Ryan smiled slightly, but he knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of a long fight. The alien forces, led by General Krosk, would not let their grip on the galaxy slip so easily. "We've still got a lot of work to do," Ryan said, his voice steady. "Stay sharp. The moment we relax is the moment they strike back." Just as Ryan finished speaking, an explosion rocked the Vanguard, a human battleship that had been part of the front line. The blast sent debris flying through space, and Ryan's heart sank as he watched the ship's damage indicators light up red. "Megan, get the Vanguard back into position," Ryan commanded urgently. "We can't afford to lose another ship." "We're working on it, Captain," Megan replied, her fingers flying over the control panel. "The crew is doing everything they can to stabilize the hull, but it's bad, sir." Ryan nodded grimly. The Vanguard had been one of their strongest ships. Losing it would be a huge blow, but they couldn't afford to fall back now. "We'll make sure they didn't die in vain," Ryan said. "Keep pushing forward. We need to cripple their fleet, not just defend." With the Valrathi's help, the humans struck again. The alien ships, now distracted by the sudden turn in the battle, found themselves under attack from two fronts. Human fighters darted in and out of the alien defenses, targeting weak spots. The Valrathi unleashed waves of energy blasts that tore through the alien ships with deadly accuracy. In the chaos, Ryan saw an opening, an enemy flagship. The Nightmare was lagging behind the main force. It was heavily guarded, but Ryan knew This could be their chance. If they could take it down, they could cripple Krosk's command structure. All ships focus on the Nightmare, Ryan ordered. This is our shot. The human fleet surged forward, with the Valrathi providing cover. The battle was far from won, but for the first time, Ryan could see the possibility of victory. The alien forces, once confident in their superiority, were now reeling. As the Nightmare started to take hits, Ryan's resolve hardened. This was only the beginning. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting to win. The human fleet had broken through the first wave of alien ships, but Ryan Steele knew the battle wasn't over. General Krosk's forces were regrouping, and they weren't going to give up easily. The destruction of the Nightmare had been a major blow, but it was only one ship in a massive armada. Krosk still had the numbers, the power, and the will to fight. "Captain, they're forming up again," Megan Cross reported, her eyes scanning the tactical map. "They're getting ready for another assault." Ryan stood still for a moment, thinking hard. They needed a new plan. The human fleet had already used their surprise tactics, and now they had to adapt. They couldn't win by simply charging headfirst into the enemy lines. They had to outthink them. "We can't keep fighting them in the open," Ryan said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "We need to divide their forces. If we can do that, we can pick them off one by one." Megan nodded, quickly pulling up a map of the battlefield. "So we go in, create confusion, and strike where they're weakest?" Ryan smiled slightly. "Exactly. We're not stronger than them, but we are smarter. If we use the Valrathi ships to create distractions, we can force them to spread out. Then, we move in with everything we've got." It was a risky move. If it failed, they could lose everything. But Ryan knew they had no choice. The human fleet was small and they couldn't afford a prolonged battle. They needed to make a quick, decisive move. "We can do it, Captain," Megan said with confidence. "We've already come this far." Ryan looked around at his crew, the faces of his warriors, and he saw something in their eyes that gave him strength. They weren't ready to give up. They were willing to fight no matter the cost. "All right, here's the plan," Ryan said, laying out the details. "Megan, you and the Eagle will lead the charge. You'll draw their attention and make them think we're going to attack directly. The rest of the fleet, including the Valrathi, will hit their vulnerable spots from the side." Megan's expression was focused. "And what about the Vanguard? It's still heavily damaged." "We'll use it as a decoy," Ryan said. "It won't fight, but it'll take attention away from our main forces." The tension on the command deck was palpable as the crew prepared for the new strategy. The stakes had never been higher. One wrong move and it could be all over. As the human fleet began to move into position, Ryan felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He wasn't just leading a crew. He was leading humanity's last hope. "Time to change the tide," Ryan muttered under his breath. "For Earth." The human fleet, alongside the Valrathi, moved into position as Ryan Steele had planned. The battle had taken a new turn. The alien forces, once confident in their overwhelming strength, were now divided, forced to focus on multiple targets. It was a small victory, but it gave the humans a fighting chance. "Captain, we've got them right where we want them," Megan Cross reported, her voice steady. "The alien fleet is spread thin. They're starting to panic." Ryan nodded, but his mind was still on the next move. "We need to keep up the pressure. We can't let them regroup." Just as the battle seemed to be turning in their favor, an unexpected signal came through on the communications channel. It was a human transmission, but it was coming from an unknown source. Ryan's brow furrowed in confusion. There was no time for distractions. "Patch it through," Ryan ordered. The voice that came through was one Ryan recognized, but it didn't make sense. It was from Captain Derek Hayes, the commander of the Sentinel, one of the human ships that had been part of the front line. But Hayes had been part of the main assault. He shouldn't have been able to send a message. "Captain Steele," Hayes's voice was calm, but there was something unsettling about it. "I've made a decision. The human fleet's survival depends on a new alliance. We've already contacted Krosk's forces. The Sentinel is joining their ranks." Ryan's eyes widened in shock. What are you talking about? You're betraying us? I'm not betraying anyone, Hayes replied coolly. I'm doing what's best, for us. Krosk's forces are too strong. If we don't join them, we'll all die here. The Valrathi can't be trusted. Neither can you. This war is already lost. Ryan felt a surge of anger. This was a betrayal, pure and simple. Hayes had always been loyal. At least Ryan had thought so. Now he was turning his back on everything they had fought for. Megan, get a team on the Sentinel immediately, Ryan ordered, his voice firm with resolve. We cannot let this stand. We're already on it, Captain, Megan said, her hands flying across the control panel. We'll make sure the traitors don't have a chance to sabotage our fleet. Ryan's jaw clenched. It wasn't just the betrayal of one man. It was a challenge to everything humanity had worked for. Krosk's forces were already a threat, but now, from within their own ranks, they had a new enemy. The fight was getting more complicated, and the stakes had never been higher. Megan, Ryan said quietly, his eyes hardening. We end this. Whatever it takes. The news of Captain Hayes' betrayal sent a shockwave through the human fleet. For a moment, there was confusion, and the soldiers on the ships weren't sure how to react. But Ryan Steele knew that there was no time to waste. The Yao fight wasn't just about holding the line anymore. It was about survival. Megan, Ryan said sharply, his voice steady despite the chaos. We've got to keep fighting. We can't let Hayes or Krosk win. We stay focused on the battle. Everything else can wait. Megan nodded, determination in her eyes. Understood, Captain. The rest of the fleet is still with us. We'll deal with the traitors later. Ryan stood tall, looking out at the vast expanse of space. The human fleet was still strong, but the betrayal weighed heavily on him. He couldn't afford to lose any more allies. Not now. They had come too far. All ships, listen up. Ryan's voice boomed over the fleet's comms. We've been tested, but we're not done yet. We fight for Earth, we fight for the future, we fight for every man and woman who believes in what we stand for. Let's show them what humanity is made of. The response from the fleet was immediate. Every ship in the Yao human fleet rallied together, launching into action with renewed strength. They may have lost a part of their crew, but they were still united, and they would not back down. The Valrathi, too, remained by their side, despite the uncertainty caused by the betrayal. Commander Ilara's voice came through the comms, calm, but full of fire. Captain Steele, we are with you. Together, we will end this. Ryan could feel the weight of the battle pressing down on him, but the tide was beginning to turn. The alien forces, now more divided, were struggling to maintain their strength. The humans, with their new strategy, were gaining ground. It wasn't an easy fight, but it was a fight they could win. As the fleet moved forward, the Vanguard, despite its earlier damage, led the charge. Its weapons fired with precision, and the alien ships began to falter. The Valrathi fighters swooped in, cutting through the alien defenses like a blade through silk. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he focused on the alien flagship, the Dreadstorm. It was Krosk's pride and joy, and taking it down would break the heart of the enemy's command. But it was heavily protected, surrounded by a wall of alien ships. This wouldn't be easy. All ships, target the Dreadstorm, Ryan commanded, his voice filled with determination. We bring down their leader, and the rest will fall. With a sudden burst of speed, the human fleet and the Valrathi pressed forward, targeting the alien flagship. For the first time, Ryan felt that they might actually have a chance to win this war. The battle was reaching its peak. The human fleet, now fully united with the Valrathi, moved as one force toward the alien flagship, the Dreadstorm. Ryan Steele stood firm at the command center, his eyes focused on the ever-changing battlefield. The tide had turned, but they were not yet victorious. The Dreadstorm was still heavily protected, its shields glowing with energy. Captain, we're closing in on the Dreadstorm, Megan Cross reported, her voice sharp with focus. But their defenses are tougher than we expected. Ryan's mind raced as he weighed his options. The enemy was down, but not out. If they couldn't break through soon, the Dreadstorm would turn the tables again. He needed something bold, something decisive. "Tell the Valrathi to make their move," Ryan said, his voice steady. "We can't waste any more time. If we don't take that ship down now, we might lose everything." Megan relayed the command to Commander Ilara, who quickly responded. "We understand, Captain. We'll hit them hard." The Valrathi ships dove into the fray, their advanced weaponry striking the alien defenses with deadly accuracy. Explosions rocked the battlefield as the alien ships tried to retaliate, but the combined forces of humanity and the Valrathi were too much for them. Ryan could see the alien fleet beginning to crack. The Dreadstorm's shields flickered, and the once imposing flagship now seemed vulnerable. It was the moment Ryan had been waiting for. "All ships, full attack," Ryan ordered, his voice echoing through the fleet's comms. "Let's bring them down." The human fleet surged forward with renewed vigor. Fighters and bombers launched from every ship, targeting the weak spots in the Dreadstorm's defenses. The battle became a blur of fire and chaos as human and Valrathi forces clashed with the remaining alien ships. But the Dreadstorm was the true prize. If they could take it out, Krosk's forces would lose their leadership, and the rest of the alien fleet would crumble. Ryan's heart raced as the Dreadstorm came into full view, its massive hull barely holding together under the pressure. The human fleet was now closing in, determined to finish the fight. "Fire everything," Ryan shouted, his hands gripping the command console as the final moments of the battle approached. The human fleet and the Valrathi ships released their full firepower, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, the Dreadstorm erupted, in a blinding flash of light. The massive alien flagship began to break apart, its engines going dark as the alien forces scrambled to retreat. "We did it," Megan breathed, her voice filled with awe. Ryan's eyes remained fixed on the wreckage of the Dreadstorm. The battle was far from over, but this was the turning point. Krosk had lost his flagship and with it, his grip on the galaxy. The human fleet had proven that they could stand up to the impossible. "Stay alert," Ryan said, his voice steady. "This fight isn't over, but we've made our mark." The moment the Dreadstorm fell, the alien forces began to break apart. The once imposing fleet now scattered, trying to regroup, but the loss of their flagship had shaken their confidence. General Krosk, the mastermind behind the invasion, had no plan to retreat. But without his command ship, his forces were lost. Ryan Steele watched from the command center, knowing this was their moment. "Megan," he said, his voice calm, "we finish this. Krosk is desperate. If we press now, we can end this war." Megan Krosk turned toward him, determination in her eyes. "We're ready, Captain. The rest of the fleet is prepared to move in." Ryan looked out at the battlefield, the smoke and fire still rising from the wreckage of the alien ships. The Valrathi had proven to be invaluable allies, and now they were as committed to victory as the humans were. "We'll hit them from all sides," Ryan said, his hand tightening around the arm of his chair. "The Valrathi will take their flanks while we move in for the final blow. We don't stop until Krosk is defeated." The final assault began with precision. The human fleet, along with the Valrathi forces, moved into their positions. Ships flew in, tight formations, striking the remaining alien forces wherever they were weakest. The aliens fought back with desperation, but their numbers were too few now and their morale had shattered. "We have them on the run," Megan said, a note of excitement creeping into her voice. "They're falling back." Ryan's heart raced, but he couldn't allow himself to get distracted. This was the moment they had all been fighting for. With Krosk's flagship gone, the alien empire's command structure was in chaos. Now they had to finish what they had started. The human and Valrathi ships pushed forward, the alien forces scattering as they tried to escape. It was too late. The humans and their allies had surrounded them on all sides, and there was nowhere left to go. One by one, the alien ships were disabled or destroyed, their crews surrendering or fleeing. "Captain, the last of their fleet is breaking apart," Megan reported. "Krosk's forces are finished." Ryan stood up, watching the final moments of the battle unfold. He had led them through impossible odds, but now the war was almost over. The alien threat had been crushed, and humanity had survived. "We've done it," Ryan said softly, a sense of relief washing over him. We've won. The fleet's final strikes were swift. With the alien forces routed, Krosk's empire had no choice but to surrender. The human fleet had proven their strength, and their victory would echo through the galaxy for years to come. Ryan turned to Megan, a tired but proud smile on his face. We've changed everything. The final echoes of battle faded, and a strange quiet settled over the galaxy. The human fleet, battered but victorious, drifted among the wreckage of what had once been the alien armada. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter as the last of the enemy ships were either destroyed or abandoned. Ryan Steele stood on the command deck of the Eagle, gazing out at the vastness of space. The battle was over, but the war had left its mark. They had won, yes, but it had come at a cost. Many lives had been lost on both sides. The final price of victory was something Ryan would carry with him forever. Megan Cross stepped up beside him, her face tired but relieved. We did it, Captain. It's over. Ryan nodded slowly, still taking in the enormity of it all. It's hard to believe, he said quietly. We fought for so long, and now, it's done. The Valrathi fleet, which had fought beside them, had begun the long journey home. Commander Alara had sent her final message of thanks to Ryan and the human forces. Though their alliance had been born out of necessity, it had proven to be one of the key factors in the human success. Ryan, they're asking for a victory speech, Megan said, her voice light, trying to lift his mood. The whole fleet's waiting. Ryan looked at her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. I'll give them one, but only if you promise not to make fun of me when I start talking about how we survived against impossible odds. Megan grinned. I wouldn't dream of it, Captain. The crew had gathered in the main hall of the Eagle, and Ryan walked in front of them, feeling the weight of their gaze. He had always led with action, but now he had to find the words to sum up what they had all been through. He cleared his throat, looking at the faces of the men and women who had fought beside him. Today we stand here as victors, not because we were stronger or faster or more advanced. We won because we refused to give up. We refused to let the darkness swallow us. Humanity proved today that we have something worth fighting for, and we will never stop fighting for it. The room was silent for a moment before a cheer erupted, and Ryan felt a deep sense of pride. The battle was over, but their journey had just begun. They had saved Earth, yes, but they had also secured a future for the galaxy. We did it together, Ryan said, looking out at his crew. And that's how we'll keep going. Together. As the cheers grew louder, Ryan Steele knew that the victory was not just his, it was theirs. They had changed everything.